Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of A Place to Hang Your Cape. And this week, you know what? I've had enough of complaining. I'm actually gonna fix something! Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of A Place to Hang Your Cape. My name's Scott James Merridew, and this is the show where I talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and I'm joined each week by a very special different guest. My guest this week is Jillian Diblasio. She's been on the show before. Hello, Jillian.
Hi.
Hello. Now, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show today because, we're conducting a little experiment here on Podcapers. Many times, as I'm sure you know, many times on Podcapers, I bemoaned a movie's lack of quality, shall we say, and I've tried to put my own spin on it. Now, for those of you who don't know Capers, I am a writer, I have written stuff in the past, and I trained in it. I got 2 degrees in script writing, both an undergrad Bachelor of Arts degree, and a master's degree. So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm the sole voice of reason and just because I'm a writer no one else can have an opinion, but I do like to think I know what I'm talking about. So, with that in mind, I'm gonna do something I haven't done before on this show. I'm gonna full-on rewrite a movie, and it's gonna be a big one. I thought, should I do a Disney movie? Should I do some other movie that's been out more recently? No, you know what? Considering not too long after we recorded, before we recorded this episode, the new trailer for Star Wars Episode 9 dropped, I think it's high time I fix Star Wars Episode 7.
Okay, so I think one of my questions that I have is are you the type of person that hated The Force Awakens but liked The Last Jedi, or did you hate both of them?
I hate
Let's
both.
put this into context.
Thank you very much. I hate both of them for very different reasons. The Last Jedi, I think I mentioned the show before, I thought was half great and half utter dog shit.
Okay.
Awful. And it's annoying because when a movie spoils itself, when it's so much of a movie is bad, it just ruins the whole experience no matter how good the other parts are. And that's a shame. There's lots of good parts of The Last Jedi, but I just feel like they're ruined by all the crap parts. Big casino city. Fucking.
Okay, yeah. I think we agree on that part. Like the big casino scene, like whole bit, like it didn't bother me that much, but like I can acknowledge that it's a problem.
We're not treading new ground when we talk about how shit The Last Jedi is. But here's the thing with The Force Awakens. I thought that the movie was good, but I hate it. Why? You know why? All of you know fucking why. Because like 80% of the plot beats are stolen wholesale from Episode 4, A New Hope. Like, no movie, no.
Okay, see, so this is going to be an interesting conversation because I feel the same way. Like, I like The Force Awakens, but at the same time, it annoys the shit out of me that it, like, has beat for beat the exact same plot points as A New Hope.
I mean, I'm all for narrative parallels. Fine, yes, you can show how the more things change, the more they stay the same. That can be that can be quite good. But when 80% of your movie, I don't know, I keep saying 80%, that just seems like a good round number for me. 80% of the movie is exactly the same as the very first and one of the most popular iterations of this beloved sci-fi franchise. Then you gotta wonder, J.J. Abrams, how often you're gonna do this shit? We saw what you did with Into Darkness, and then you fucking did it again. You're getting a reputation, J.J. You're better than this. And it's especially annoying because, much like with The Last Jedi, the 20% of original ideas they came up with, I thought were rather good. Luke Skywalker going missing, brilliant. A main character being a stormtrooper, even if it's a formal one, brilliant. There's lots of good stuff in there, but it's ruined by the same shit we've seen before that's either exactly the same or slightly worse. And it's amazing. In particular, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a review of the movie, because it's partially that, but it's not all just that. But there's so many, like, the big standout for me, I think, is Captain Phasma. Like, they went on and on and on about how she's, like, the next Boba Fett. She's going to be this cool new character. And then they had her in the movie quite a bit, but they didn't fucking do anything with her. And it's like, you can't just copy and paste shit over from a previous movie, give it a little bit of a retexture, and think that's enough. No, you've got to try harder, Disney. And I do blame Disney, not J.J. Abrams, because Disney, they don't leave things fucking alone. They got their greasy tentacles into this, and they manipulated and marketed it and just try to make it as bland and mass appealing as possible, to the point when even the people liked it, yes, but for all the wrong reasons. And I hate to say it, it makes me sick to my stomach to say this, but here goes. I can respect the prequels more than the sequels, because at least the prequels tried something new. They failed miserably. George Lucas didn't know what he was doing because he was an auteur and was the one sole person responsible for the whole construction of those movies, but at least they tried something new. I'm not the first person to say this. I'm not, but that's genuinely how I feel. And unfortunately, we've gone the opposite extreme, where we've now got movies designed by committee with no clear vision whatsoever. Well, guess what? Let's imagine a scenario wherein I am somehow in charge of this movie, and I've gotten a script from... Well, it was JJ who wrote it, wasn't it?
I have no idea. I don't know who wrote it.
I say who wrote it. Let's be honest. Whoever wrote it got a... No, it was Lawrence Kasdan. Lawrence Kasdan was one of the who wrote Empire Strikes Back, and honestly, when you look at his filmography, he's not that great a screenwriter, but he's all right. Like, Empire was great, but whoever wrote it doesn't matter, because Disney obviously gave them a lot of fucking notes. We want this, we want this, we want that, and this, and not just in terms of plot beats or characters, but also in terms of tone and just general feel. So let's imagine I'm in charge, and Disney gave a bunch of notes. Maybe I've taken some on board, maybe I haven't, and I presented them a script. It's like, say, okay, Disney, this is how things are going to go. Okay? Alright. And let's imagine this wonderful scenario where they listen to me. However, if you listen to the show, you'll know I hate auteurs. I do not like auteurs. I admit that some of them are good at what they do, but don't like them. I believe that film is a collaborative process, and therefore the vision must be shared, not amongst everyone, but at least a few people. One of the reasons why the prequels failed so much is because no one had the guts to stand up to George Lucas and say, George, this Jar Jar guy, no, cut him right the fuck out. We do not need him, okay? Okay, let's just talk about this. And Jillian, that is your job. You are going to be my Jiminy Cricket, my conscience, my ghost of Christmas past, to tell me what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong, okay?
Sounds good. I did go to a school for film, so I did take some screenwriting classes, so hopefully that pays off here.
What was your actual, qualification? What was your actual degree in?
Digital filmmaking.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Hey, I tell you what, that makes you far more qualified than fucking What's-Her-Face is now in charge of these movies. What's her name?
Kathleen Kennedy?
Yeah, you're more qualified than she is.
All right, sounds good.
I trust you more than I trust her. Now, before we start with the movie proper, it's time for backstory. Now, here's the question that's on everyone's mind. Wait a minute, I thought the Empire was destroyed. Who's this First Order malarkey? What's going on there? And the movie explains this to us by not explaining it. So,
yes.
Throughout the movie, I'm going to pepper in little bits of exposition about how this new empire was formed and what happened. However, rather than interrupt the story as we go through it, by doing that, I'm just going to give you a big plot dump about how this whole thing came to be, and you just assume that all the information I'm about to give you gets incorporated into the movie in a reasonable and effective and smooth way, okay?
Sounds good.
Alright, so this whole backstory starts during the Battle of Endor, where Grand Admiral Cadmir Varro sees the Executor, that big Doritos-looking Star Destroyer, you can tell the Empire really had a pattern they wanted to keep with when they came to naming their vehicles.
Yep.
Crashes into the Death Star. Camivaro, right, you're going to establish him as being a tactical genius. Now, some of the more clear-eyed of you may have noticed a bit of a connection between him and, say, Gran Admiral Thrawn or any of the other expanded universe legacy characters thereof. Any similarities are 100% intentional. Moving on. And I try to differentiate a lot of these characters, but you may see some similarities, but it's all non-canon now, so I can do whatever the fuck I want. So he sees the Executor crash into the Death Star, and he thinks, oh shit, that's not good. You know what? I think that we're going to lose this battle. I think we're going to lose... Okay, right, big ship that I'm on, I don't know its name, pull back, retreat from the battle. But sir, we still have a chance, we could still destroy the rebellion. No, we're going to retreat to a safe distance. And you know what? He was fucking right, because then... Second Death Star goes kaplooey. Oh shit, if we had been any closer, we'd have been caught in the blast wave and fucking destroyed. Holy shitting crap. Oh no. And oh shit, that means both the Emperor and Lord Vader are dead. And Cadme like, okay, this is a real bad sticky wicket. You know what we're going to do now? Fire on the rebellion? No. Go down to the planet Endor? No. We're going to... Coruscant! Bam, 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 bam! We're knights of fucking Coruscant! I don't know. They're going to Coruscant. That's all you need to know. They're going to Coruscant. And basically, Camivaro at this point sees the writing on the wall. Second Death Star destroyed. They put a lot of resources into that second time round. And it's gone. Emperor is dead. Darth Vader is dead. This might be the advantage the Rebellion needs in order to completely topple the Empire. And he is a staunch Empire loyalist. So, he and a squad of stormtroopers fight their way into the Imperial Palace, the place where Palpatine sort of hung out, in an attempt to find anything of the Emperor's that might be of use in preserving the Empire. They don't find anything except a library of holocrons. Do you know what a holocron is?
I do not. My Star Wars lore is very minimal. Please explain it to me as a non-Star Wars knowing person.
Holocrons are essentially, in layman's terms, they're Star Wars equivalent of USB sticks. They're devices to store large amount of data on them. And there's a whole library of them in the Imperial Palace, each made by Palpatine about the dark side of the Force. Bum, bum, bum. So they cheesed it out of Coruscant, which is in the middle of its own uprising that you may have seen at the end of the special edition of Return of the Jedi. You know, when they pull down that statue of Palpatine. Like, that's all going on at that point, so he's getting the fuck out of there. And so, after he's done that, Varro studies the holocrons, and he finds one in particular concerning battle meditation. Anyone who's read like the Thrawn trilogy will remember the whole thing about battle meditation. It's basically this force power that allows someone who meditates to influence a battle around them, bolstering your allies' reserves and energy whilst slowly weakening your enemies. And he deduced that the Emperor's death meant that he was no longer influencing the battle simply by being there. And that is what caused the rebel victory. It's like a spell has been broken all across the galaxy. So he rejoins what's left of the Imperial fleet. And it's like, okay, so I don't have anything that's actually going to help preserve the Empire, but I do have a lot of stuff about the Force. I guess we could try and take on the rebellion. Needless to say, they are beaten in a series of crushing defeats. Without the Emperor guiding everyone, and with most of the Imperial command destroyed in the Battle of Endor, they're not in a very good place, leaving them with only a few planets in their grasp. And the whole, what's left of the Imperial High Command is just fucking panicking, like, oh shit, what are we going to do? Should we just surrender to the rebellion? But Varro's like, no, I've got a plan. And his plan is to use the Hutts. Because you see, in the wake of Jabba the Hutt's death, there's a huge power vacuum in the Hutt crime syndicate. And Varro suggests, here's an idea. What if we back a single crime lord, who in turn is going to reinforce our rule on the planets we still have? This strategy worked. They backed a single Hutt, the Hutt helped them, they mutually helped each other, and thus the New Republic, as it was now called, is stopped from advancing any further into the Outer Rim. They expanded out from Coruscant and the Corwell planets and the Mid-Rim planets to the Outer Rim and was stopped there. And these two sides realise that they can't really go any further. Sort of no man's land sort of appears. The New Republic realise we don't have the resources to take on the Empire, even though they're weakened. And the Empire's like, well, shit, we don't have the planets to defend ourselves properly. And it's a sort of detente, as it were. And so, a peace treaty is reluctantly signed. Basically saying, okay, truce, ceasefire, we're not allies, but you stick to your bit of the galaxy, and we'll stick to ours. Now, the reason why I set this up is because, what is the name of this franchise?
Star Wars.
Yeah, okay.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The name of the franchise, it wasn't a trick question. I wasn't trying to confuse you.
I thought it was a trick question, and it's like the way you phrased it, it made it seem like it was a trick question. So I was like, oh crap, am I getting this wrong? And like just like being a total like dumbass.
No, the name of this franchise is actually called Farscape. No. It's called Star Wars. Emphasis on the wars. The main plot of these main movies, ignoring like the side products like the books and the video games and stuff, is centered around wars, large-scale conflicts. And there are analogues we can draw, like parallels, between the wars in the story and wars in our world, in real life. A good example would be, in the original trilogy, the war could be compared to, say, American War for Independence, possibly. You know, lone rebellion going up against big empire. In the prequels, you could then again draw an analogy with another American war, the American Civil War, or any civil war really. Especially the American Civil War, though, because there's secessionists and political powers going on, and, you know, stuff like that. So what war could we draw a parallel to in this new sequel trilogy? And I came up with the idea of the Cold War. Two big superpowers going up against each other, neither of which is willing to make the first move, but there's still conflicts going on. What do you think of that?
I like it. I like where this is going.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Right, so basically what happens is, due to this peace treaty, the core planets and the mid-rim planets are now under New Republic rule. And like 99% of the outer rim planets are now under Imperial rule. And due to the fact that he's basically saved the Empire, Varro now becomes the new leader of this Empire, which, due to the fact that it's not really controlling the whole galaxy anymore, now is called the Imperial Order. Why the Imperial Order and not the First Order, I hear you cry. I hear you cry.
Why is it not the First Order?
Because it's not the fucking First Order! It's like the Third Order! Old Republic, Galactic Empire, First Order. Like, no, why is it called the First Order? No! Makes no sense. I'm sure it's explained in Expanded Universe content, but we shouldn't have to get clarification for stuff in these movies from the Expanded Universe. It's Expanded Universe, not fucking actual context we need universe. So it's called the Imperial Order. We know what... When you say Imperial Order, what do you think of?
A massive like empire sort of thing that is controlling a lot.
Exactly, yeah. And so that's all you need. The First Order, that could be fucking anything except for the fact that it's first, which, as we already established, it's not. So we're getting rid of that. It's called the Imperial Order. So Varro is now in charge of the Imperial Order, and he decided that in order for them to once again take control of the galaxy one day, they would need to use something that they didn't really use before. the Force. Because, you see, there were only 2 Force users, excluding some other characters that probably aren't canon anymore, Starkiller. They've only had 2 of them, the Emperor and Darth Vader. But here's the thing. He finds out from the holocrons about the Rule of 2. Do you know what the Rule of 2 is?
No. Please explain.
Okay, so, basically, in the Old Republic, thousands of years ago, there were tons of Sith everywhere. Dark Force users all over the place, constantly in contact and conflict, rather, with the Jedi. And then there was this thing, I think it was called the Rusan Wars, don't quote me on that. Basically, all the Sith get wiped out, except for one, Darth Bane. And Bane realizes, holy shit, we've been trying to take control of the whole galaxy for fucking centuries now, and it's never worked. I've got an idea, though. What if there were only 2 Sith at any given time? A master and an apprentice. The master would take an apprentice, train them in the dark side. The apprentice, once they had learned enough, would kill the master, take an apprentice of their own, and the cycle would just continue on, lurking from the shadows, trying to destabilize the Republic and one day take it over. This shit went on for fucking thousands of years until Darth Plagueis took on an apprentice, Darth Sidious, and that Darth Sidious, aka Palpatine, took over the Galactic Republic, transforming it into the Galactic Empire. Here's the thing, though.
Right.
It took them fucking millennia to get to that point, and they were only able to hold the galaxy for less than 3 decades.
That is true.
The Rule of 2 didn't really work very well. And especially considering the fact that good Sith had to be kept from getting killed in order for the whole plan to work. So Varro said, we're not going to have a Rule of 2. I want to find as many Force users as I can and use them to one day take over the Republic. Because of that, he instituted a mandatory training program for everyone in Imperial-controlled space suspected of being a Force user, of being Force sensitive. Once identified as such, they were indoctrinated, at best, brainwashed at worst, and trained in the dark side of the Force, using those holocrons he'd stolen from Coruscant. And these people are now known as Shadow Knights. Ooh, spooky. And they're led by the very first Force user to go through the training, Varro's own daughter, Elisari. It's a spacey name I made up. And
okay.
So Canberra Varro maintained that whilst they build up their reserves, they need to wait for the opportune moment to strike, building up their resources, their military strength, and the number of Shadow Knights they have. However, Canberra Varro died some years ago, and Elisari Varro now rules the Imperial Order, taking over for her father. There are some rumours that his death was not in fact of natural causes, as is public knowledge, and he was in fact killed by his own daughter. But that's just a rumour, surely. Ooh, we don't know. Meanwhile, while all that is going on, the new Republic has flourished. Because it's free from Imperial tyranny, despite some awkward first steps, its citizens are safe and secure. Luke Skywalker dedicated his life to rebuilding the Jedi Order, not the fucking Knights of Ren. Like, what? No. He built the Jedi Order with moderate success. Because here's the thing. There's plenty of Jedi now in the Republic, but there's nowhere near as strong as the Jedi of the Old Republic. They're growing under his tutelage, but there's still just like a couple of dozen of them. Definitely less than 100. Why? Because in episode 7 that we had, there were no fucking Jedi, which is kind of similar to what's that other movie? Oh yeah, the original trilogy. Now here's the thing. I mentioned earlier that I at least respected the prequels. And one of the reasons was because they had a juxtaposition in terms of the Jedi. There were a ton of Jedi, then they got all killed, and now there's only a few. But now, in episode 7, in the new sequel trilogy, there's like almost no Jedi, which is exactly the same as the original trilogy. So let's continue with this idea, this wacky idea of doing something different, and have a middle ground in between these prequels and the original trilogy. Prequel trilogy, tons of Jedi. Original trilogy, very few Jedi. Here, there's some Jedi. There's quite a few Jedi, just nowhere near as much as there were. Okay, so it's a little bit different, and it distinguishes the sequel trilogy. However, as few Jedi as they are, there's even less now because Elisari Varro has sent as many Shadow Knights as she can to try and assassinate any Jedi they come across. They're very thinly spread, and they don't know where all these new Dark Force users are coming from, so their numbers, small as they are being thinned out. And that would be fine if they had Luke Skywalker to lead them. But he's vanished. Oh dear. Yep, that's right. I'm keeping that in. It's a good idea. And thus the Jedi are being killed off one by one without him. Leia has decided to send out as many Jedi out into the galaxy to find out where Luke has gone and determine the source of the Shadow Knights. That's all the backstory that you need for the moment. That's all going to get revealed at various points throughout the movie. So now we can actually start the movie properly. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. We get the crawl. Star Wars, Episode 7. The Skywalker Legacy. Oh! I changed the title! Ask me why!
Why did you change the title?
Because the original title was generic and pointless. Like, okay, so The Force Awakens. Not a bad title in and of itself, but was the Force asleep this whole time? Pretty sure the Force was in use. There were active Force users going about. The Force wasn't lying dormant. And what about the Force is awake? I mean, and then they keep on saying in the movie, there has been an awakening. What woke up? Did Rey wake up? She's been around for a while.
It was... Yes. Well, the thing is like, I think it kind of explains it more. Like, it's kind of confusing if, like, you just watch The Force Awakens, but it kind of gets more explained in The Last Jedi, where it's like...
They call that The Force Awakens!
The Force that's awakening is Rey awakening to be the natural opposite to Kylo Ren, which is what Snoke says in his whole, like, speech to Rey and Kylo Ren before, he dies in The Last Jedi, is that the natural opposite is what is awakening to counter the dark side. So it's Rey's awakening.
That's a very lengthy explanation for something that shouldn't really have to be explained. So, we're ditching the old title. So we have to think about, okay, so the title should be what the movie is about. In A New Hope, it was about how the galaxy has been under the tyranny of the Empire, but now there's a new hope in the form of Luke. The Empire strikes back. After their previous victory, the Empire is now striking back and things are at their worst. The Jedi return, Luke finally becomes a Jedi. The Phantom Menace, there's a Phantom Menace, still kind of generic, but accurate. Attack of the Clones, bunch of clones that attack. Okay, Revenge of the Sith get the revenge on the Jedi. It makes sense. So, what's this movie about? It's about the search for Luke Skywalker and the impact that his decisions, both in this movie and in previous movies, have had on the galaxy, you could say, if you're going for an overarching look at things. Now, my original title for this was Star Wars Episode 7, The Search for Skywalker, but they came across a little bit like Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. So, maybe not. Maybe not do that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So the Skywalker Legacy, I think, is a sufficient title that gets across the point of the movie. Do you agree?
Yes.
Cool. Then we get the crawl. This is no Rogue One shit. We get a crawl. Now, the original crawl, it said, like, Luke Skywalker has vanished. I see no reason to change that. That's a good idea. First sentence of the crawl, Luke Skywalker has vanished. Oh, shit. In his absence, the Imperial Order, the remnant of the Galactic Empire, had begun assassinating members of Skywalker's new Jedi Order, using the mysterious Dark Force users known as the Shadow Knights. With the support of the New Republic, Master Leia Organa Solo, because General Leia, like, really? No. Master Leia Organa Solo sends many Jedi and spies out to find any trace of her brother, desperate to gain his help in restoring peace and justice to the galaxy. But it's because you've got to use the words peace, justice, and galaxy in a Star Wars crawl. You have to, it's the law. She has sent her son, the Jedi Ben Solo, on a secret mission to Nar Shaddaa, where an old ally has discovered a clue to Luke's whereabouts. That's right! Ben Solo's still in this, but he's not a whining emo!
Yes, I like this. One of my notes for when rewatching The Force Awakens yesterday was Kylo Ren's temper tantrums are stupid.
He is a big Darth Vader fanboy. And okay, so I get what they were going for with Kylo Ren. I get it, okay? He was, like, Darth Vader was tortured by the dark side. So Kylo Ren was tortured by the light side. There's just one small problem with that. It makes no fucking sense.
Yep.
I get that he's conflicted. I get that the light side could torture him, on a conceptual level, but they never explain exactly why in the movie, and he doesn't really look that tortured for most of the time. So it just looks like he's having big temper tantrums, as you say. So we're going to change things up in a bit. In this version, Ben Solo is a Jedi. He's on a side of good, and you know what? He is the fucking poster boy for the New Republic. He's got his father's charm and good looks, his mother's wisdom, and he is super force powerful. He's an ace fighter pilot, just like his uncle. And he's great with a lightsaber, better with the ladies, and everyone just fucking loves him. Rather a lot of pressure for a young man, don't you think?
Yes, that is quite a bit of pressure.
Yes. So we open this movie above Nar Shaddaa. Do you know what Nar Shaddaa is?
Nope.
Nar Shaddaa, if you ever played like old Star Wars games, you know what Nar Shaddaa is. Nar Shaddaa is a moon orbiting Nal Hutta, the homeworld of the Hutts. So as you can imagine, due to the deal between the Hutts and the Empire, this is deep in Empire territory. It's in the Outer Rim. And Nar Shaddaa is basically Coruscant but shit. It's like the planet version of Detroit. It's one big city, and it is just grimy and scummy and full of horrible people doing horrible things. It's not a nice place to live. Ben then travels in his small starfighter, to Nar Shaddaa, following up on a lead that he's gotten from a Republic spy. He goes to meet this Republic spy in a rundown cantina, followed by his faithful droid BB-8, because goddammit, we've got to sell the kids some toys.
I think it's interesting how you're putting Ben is like he's given Poe Dameron's role.
Yes, because
essentially.
Here's the thing about Poe Dameron. I don't give a shit about him. He's a non-character. Like, no offense to Oscar Isaac, who's a phenomenal actor, but Poe Dameron in the first movie is there to be cool, look cool, and be a suave motherfucker, which Oscar Isaac does very well, but but he has no edge, he has no arc, he has nothing. They gave him an arc in the second movie, The Last Jedi, where he turned into another whiny bitch. Meh, why don't you tell me about this super secret plan? We don't know. Tell me I'm gonna mutiny. And it's not helped by the opposing opinion being, meh, I don't want to tell you this super secret plan that you should probably know because it's really, really important. You need to learn a lesson, and I'm gonna let you perform a mutiny when you really shouldn't. I have pink hair. It's stupid. So Poe Dameron is out and Ben Solo is in, but we're giving in an actual character. So he goes.
So would you have then Oscar Isaac, like, is Ben Solo's character enough like Poe Dameron that you would have Oscar Isaac play Ben Solo and not Adam Driver, or is Adam Driver Solo?
So here's the thing. I'm in charge of the script, not casting. I can only create create characters, and other people will cast them. However, if I was in charge of casting, or had a say in the casting, and bear in mind I'm changing these characters, I would not cast Adam Driver. Now, Adam Driver is one of the best new actors on the scene in recent years. I don't know if you saw that. Fucking hell. Was it Silence? That guy with eyebrows made it. I can never remember his name. He's a brilliant filmmaker. Did Taxi Driver.
You're cutting out, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, God. What? Martin Scorsese. Right, you ever see that Martin Scorsese film, Silence, that he was in? With, like, Andrew Garfield?
No, I have not seen that film.
Brilliant film. Adam Driver is fantastic in it. He's got a huge range. He can do comedy. He can do drama. I saw a trailer recently for this film he's in called The Report about prisoners in Guantanamo getting...
Oh, yeah, I really want to see that, too.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah,
he
that
looks
really
great in it. He's really great. The problem is, A, he's not given a good enough character. And B, he looks fucking nothing like Harrison Ford or Carrie Fisher.
Yep.
If you stuck them in a line, I would not be able to tell that he was related to either of them. Sorry, no offense, Adam Driver, you don't look the part. Oscar Isaacs also wouldn't really look the part. But in terms of characterization, as I said, he was quite good as Poe Dameron in the first movie in terms of the suave stuff. So he could play this version of Ben Solo. However, I would go for someone a bit younger. Actually, you know what was the name of the guy whose name I keep forgetting, who played young Han Solo in the Solo movie?
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but yeah, I don't know his name.
Alden Eicher. Like, get him to play Ben Solo. He'd be great. He looks kind of like a young Han Solo, so it would work. And we know from that movie he could pull off the suave charm, and he's done other stuff, other drama stuff that we know that he could play someone with a bit of grit to him, a bit of edge. So that would be my recommendation. But we're not here to talk about casting. We're here to talk about the story. So Ben Solo goes into this rundown cantina and meets the spy in question that he's supposed to follow up with. Wedge Antilles! Please tell me you know who that is.
I don't know anybody's names.
Jillian! He was in the original movies!
Yeah, well, like, I'm sure I know who he is if I see him.
He's the guy who joined
is.
Luke in fighting the first Death Star, and he had to pull out, and he's the guy who helped Lando blow up the second Death Star. Look at the size of that thing!
Okay, yeah, I know who this guy is. I just don't know. I'm bad with names. Even when it comes to actors' names, like, chances are I don't know them, what their name is, but I could tell you, like, what movies they've been in and what their character names were, but their actual names, I don't know them.
I share your pain. It's a problem for me. So here's the thing. In the original movie, at the end of the crawl, it said Poe Dameron went to find an old friend of the Republic. Who's it going to be? Could it be Animal Akbar? Mon Mothma? Maybe even Lando Calrissian? Oh my god, it's Max von Sydow! Wait, what? He wasn't in the original movies. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I like Max von Sydow,
but extremely confused at that point because I was like, wait, am I supposed to know who this guy is? I feel like I'm supposed to know who he is, but I don't know who he is.
I felt exactly the same thing, and I know all the characters, so you can imagine my frustration. So how about instead of having this one guy who we don't know in there, let's get a character we do know, Wedge Antilles. Now here's the thing. The actor who originally played Wedge Antilles is actually a very well-established actor working here in the UK. He's actually Scottish, and I think he's related to Ewan McGregor even. Don't quote me on that. He was approached to be in this movie, and he said no because he didn't think that they had given him a good enough character. Like, in the 70s, he was just starting out, it was fine, but now he's a much more established actor, so, like, he doesn't need Star Wars, and he's probably saw the writing on the wall in terms of the script, so he said, like, no, you haven't given me a good enough character, I'm out. So, no Wedge Antilles. So let's correct that. I don't know what they originally had planned for him, but let's give Wedge Antilles a much more expanded upon character. So, Ben Solo is kind of like Poe Dameron in this movie. Do you know what else is a bit like Poe Dameron? Wedge Antilles. I'll explain more in a bit. So, Wedge tells Ben that Luke has in fact left clues behind in order to find him, and he thinks he's got a lead on one of those clues. But before he can tell Ben anything more, Shadow Knights and Stormtroopers, led by Captain Phasma, she's in this, burst into the bar. Oh shit! And they immediately start firing on everyone. Their numbers are way too much for Wedge to handle, who gets a few pot shots in but tries to take cover. But it's not a problem for Ben Solo. He immediately ignites his lightsaber and starts taking out stormtroopers and even a few Shadow Knights, left, right, and center. Then who walks in but Elisari? This is her walking onto the blockade run in the beginning of episode 4 moment. She's all impressive. And Ben's like, you're not so special. And they immediately start fighting. Lightsaber on lightsaber, red on blue. It's really intense. But she gets better of him. She maybe uses the innocent civilians in the way to distract him or to defeat him, and he gets knocked right the fuck out and taken away by the stormtroopers and the Shadow Knights. And Wedge also gets captured and taken away too. And now it's just her, stormtroopers, the Shadow Knights, Captain Phasma, and a bar full of dead and dying innocent civilians. And Elisari is just like, no witnesses. And boom, the stormtroopers start firing on everyone, just like that scene in the original movie, because that was quite effective in establishing that this new empire is just as brutal and bloodthirsty as the last. They're cutting down innocent civilians. We just removed it from this generic desert planet that should be Tatooine but isn't, to a new location. So it feels different and also similar. Only one stormtrooper hesitates, FN 2187, similar to the original. And later on, Captain Phasma berates him for this, suggesting that if he hesitates again, it'll be him that gets killed. Oh shit. BB-8 in all the kerfuffle, however, has managed to get away. And she runs into the... I don't know why. I just described BB-8 as a gender, I don't know why. BB-8 runs into a junk scavenger in the bowels of the city planet, Rey, who has been abandoned by her parents. So Rey in this version is pretty much left intact, except for two things. One, she's in the planet Nar Shaddaa, not Jakku. And two, she's... How can I put this delicately? She's not a fucking Mary Sue. I take that back. I don't want to get into the whole debate of is Rey a Mary Sue or not, because honestly, that's kind of confusing, and I have no interest in that sort of argument. However, I will say that Rey does not struggle that much in the movie. Let's be honest. Things come to her pretty fucking quickly, and you could argue a lot of that is the Force, fine, fair enough, but it kind of beggars belief. Luke, remember Luke? He struggled. He didn't always succeed, and he needed a bit of help sometimes. So, that's what we're going to do with Rey. Essentially the same character, but we're going to make sure she's an actual character that has room to grow. And similar to the original movie, she and BB-8 bond and hang out a bit. Meanwhile, all this has happened on board a Star Destroyer orbiting the planet. Well, I say planet, the moon. It's a moon. I'm sorry. Wedge is being tortured for information about Luke Skywalker. He's like, I don't know anything. Ah, why aren't you torturing Ben Solo about this or something? Ah. Meanwhile, however, FN 2187 rescues him because he has had it up to here with the Imperial Order and he wants nothing more to do with them. And similar to the original movie with Poe Dameron, they commandeer a TIE fighter, but the fighter is damaged by Captain Phasma. That's another change I'm making. In this movie, Captain Phasma does shit.
Yes, good.
She doesn't.
I like this.
She doesn't stand around waiting for her to do something in the sequel. She does something like that. You know that big like maybe she takes a rifle and shoots at the fighter, or maybe she takes like that giant spear thing she had and like throws it at the TIE fighter. It gets super damaged. It escapes the Star Destroyer, but it crash lands back on the planet. And FN, now dubbed Finn by Wedge, similar to the original movie, managed to escape the wreck, but then it explodes and it kills Wedge. We actually see that. Like, we actually see Wedge Antilles getting killed. No, it explodes, and then later on he pops in the movie with no explanation about how he survived. Poe, I thought you died. Nope. No, we're not doing that. Wedge Antilles dies. Hero of the Rebellion, big character, well, moderate character in the original trilogy, killed off in like the first 15 minutes.
Now, do you think, though, that would be enough of a role for Dennis Lawson to be willing? I feel like maybe, what if originally they actually had him as the Poe Dameron figure and he didn't like that and that's why he didn't want to come back?
This was my concern. I had that exact same concern. But in this imaginary fantasy universe where I'm in charge of the script of Star Wars, he likes it.
Okay.
My job is not to be the puppet master of this entire world. My job is to just write what I think would be a better story. So that's what we're doing. So Finn, much like in the original movie, escapes, dodges stormtroopers, runs into BB-8 and Rey. But then stormtroopers find them and give chase, blah blah blah, and they manage to get onto a rundown ship, the Millennium Falcon. Bum bum bum. While all this is going on, Ben is taken to Korriban. Do you know what Korriban is?
Nope.
You are failing this Star Wars trivia test.
I know.
So
listen. I thought I just had to rewatch The Force Awakens so I could, give my input, not take a history and like a geography test on where all this shit is and what it is.
But see, here's the thing. I'm including stuff from the expanded universe so Star Wars fans can recognize it and people who aren't that familiar with can be introduced to it. A best of both worlds. And just so you know, Korriban is the ancient seat of the Sith. It's the Sith homeworld. It is arguably the evilest place in the universe. It's not a happy place to be.
Gotcha.
And it's the now it's like the new Imperial homeworld. And so Ben is strapped down on a table, and into the room walks in Elisari. And he's like, "Okay, get on with the torture. I can take it." And Elisari's like, "Oh, we're not going to torture you, no." And he's like, "No, you're going to kill me then? Fine, get on with it." "Oh, we're not going to kill you either. I just want to ask you some questions." "What?" Flashback to Rey and Finn. They've escaped from the Imperials, guarding the planet. They've gone to hyperspace, much like in the original. But now they're arguing about whether or not to go to the New Republic. Now Rey, upon hearing all this information that Wedge has given Finn about Luke Skywalker, is like, "Holy shit, we need to go to the Republic." But Finn is like, "I don't want to go to the Republic. Okay, real talk right now. I'm a former stormtrooper." Like, maybe he reveals it now, maybe reveals it later, but he does not want to go to the Republic because he's a stormtrooper and they're going to think that he's a bad guy and they're going to do bad things to him. Bear in mind, this is a guy who's grown up in the Empire and has heard bad things about the Republic due to propaganda.
Right.
And he says that, okay, look, there's no point in us going to the Republic because, what we're going to tell them? There are clues to Luke's whereabouts, but we don't know what they are? Like, it's pointless. Like, that's not a reason enough to go there. And Rey's like, that kind of makes sense. Pooks around the Falcon for a little bit. And she gets a strong feeling about a bit of the wall. She goes over to touch it and reveals a hidden storage compartment. But how did she know that was there? She doesn't know. She's using the Force, but she doesn't know it. It's instinctual, you know? And she finds in it another holocron. Oh shit. She activates the holocron and it reveals part of a map to Luke Skywalker, like that scene in the original, but just no Han Solo yet. And she goes to Finn and says, hey, this is all we need to go to the Republic. This is proof. This is something that we can use to, ingratiate ourselves with them. Finn's like, oh shit, okay, fine. They travel to Coruscant, and as they do so, they bond over their shared parental issues. I don't know my parents because I was taken away from them when I was a kid and they were presumably killed so I could be a stormtrooper. Well, I don't really know my parents either because they just kind of left me on Nar Shaddaa, which I will need to go back to at some point because they are totally going to come back for me, and I'm going to find them, and it's going to be great, it's going to be fine. The cats and the Gretel and the silver spoon, to be expanded upon later. And they arrive on Coruscant, where the arrival of the Millennium Falcon, which even back in the original trilogy was a hunk of junk, it was kind of outdated, so now, 3 decades later, it's kind of a big deal that it shows up, which means Leia, Master Leia Organa Solo, meets it at the docks. And Rey and Finn explain who they are, what's been going on, what happened to Ben Solo, which are getting secondhand from Finn and Wedge. And Leia's like, okay, come with me. And she takes them to the new Jedi Temple. And in the new Jedi Temple, we get to see a bunch of new young Jedi being trained. You can see them fighting and sparring and using the Force to give us a visual representation, show don't tell, that the new Jedi Order is being built up slowly from the ground. Leia then shows Rey and Finn a holocron that Luke left her. Another one. Now they've got 2. But it's encrypted and it won't open. Which is weird, because the other holocron opened immediately. What's going on there? Rey accidentally starts to unlock the holocron using the Force. She's like, whoa, what happened there? I didn't do anything. And Leia's like, yeah, you did. You used the Force. Let's open it together using the Force. Clear your mind. Blah, 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 blah. And this is what I'm getting at here. So, in the original, Han Solo was a mentor, kinda, to both Finn and Rey. Here, I'm going to make Leia more of a mentor to Rey than anything else. And so just spread out the mentorship a bit across characters, you know?
Yeah.
And so they unlock the holocron together, and it reveals that more of the map to Luke. But it's still incomplete. There's one piece missing. Leia surmises that Luke must have left holocrons to people that mattered most to him. Han and Leia, and they were specifically made for each of them. Leia's could only be opened using the Force. Han's was hidden in a smuggler's compartment. So, who's left? Who's still most dear to Luke? And Leia says, well, it must be R2-D2, because C-3PO is here with me, and he doesn't know anything about any holocrons, and he hasn't got anything on him, so R2 is the only logical candidate left. Okay, so where's R2-D2? Ooh, Han took him with him several months ago, and the reason was because the Millennium Falcon got stolen and he's out there trying to find it with Chewbacca. Oh, whoops. So Leia tells Rey that it's Rey who should go after Han. And Rey says, why? Why? And Leia's like, well, because Luke's gone, I have to kind of run this Jedi temple now. And, truth be told, I've got a feeling that the Force has a plan for you. I think it might be your destiny to continue on this path and find a way to Luke. And Rey's like, kind of like that idea. Finn, however, does not want to go on a wild goose chase looking after Han Solo and then Luke Skywalker. He says, nope, I am going to stay here on Coruscant. It's safe here because there's no fighting here. There's no stormtroopers. There's no Empire, like, I can have a peaceful life here. And because this is the thing, they see. What's Finn's arc in the original story?
That his original arc is that he always wants to, his instinct is to run away instead of helping those that he cares about.
Yes. And the way they show that is by him basically acting like a big chicken. However, that's not what they set it up as. Remember the original scene where everyone's shooting all the innocent villagers and like a fellow stormer of his gets bloodied a bit and he puts his hand up to him and leaves a bloody handprint on his helmet, and when he gets out he's hyperventilating and sweating and eyes wide with terror. This is a guy with PTSD. This isn't someone who's a coward. This is someone who just doesn't want to fight. So I tweaked the character arc of Finn a little bit in this. It's not that he's a coward and wants to get away from fighting. He just doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to get involved in a war, which is fair enough. But as he's looking through the Jedi Temple, word gets out that he's a former stormtrooper, and he gets a lot of dirty looks from people. A lot of people just don't want to talk to him. A lot of people maybe accuse him of being a murderer or something like that. And he realizes, shit, they're never going to accept me here. Even though I didn't want to hurt anyone, even though I was recruited, well, I say recruited, forcibly recruited into the Empire, they're never going to accept me. However, then he hears that Han's last location is a planet called Takodana, like in the original, but that planet isn't part of the New Republic or the Imperial Order. It's part of neither side. It's sort of its own separate entity. It's like, well, shit, that sounds ideal for me. So it's like, guys, I've changed my mind. I'm going to come with you. I'm thinking I could stay there, maybe. While all that is going on, we cut back again to Korriban, with Ben still being questioned by Elisari. And he's not really giving up any information. But then she's not really asking him for information. What she's doing is, she's asking him questions about himself, using the Force to subtly manipulate him. Maybe we see her wave her hand slightly, and Ben doesn't really quite realise that he's giving stuff away because the questions seem innocuous. And he reveals to her that being the son of two war heroes and the nephew of the saviour of the galaxy is an incredible burden on him. And Elisari sympathises, because from her perspective, maybe from his as well, she's in the exact same situation. She's the daughter of the saviour of the Empire, and not only that, she's now running the Empire, basically. It's an incredibly hard burden, and they appear to be bonding. Or is she just telling him what he wants to hear? I'm deliberately leaving this ambiguous. Is she genuinely performing a connection with him? Or is she just using him? I'm being a bit subtle about this. I'm trying to be, at least.
Right.
So while that's all going on, Rey, Finn, BB-8, Leia, and C-3PO, because why are we splitting these characters up? Let's have more C-3PO and Leia. Let's just do that. They all travel to Takodana, and they find Han Solo, Chewbacca, and R2-D2 being confronted by several gangs that Han has cheated over the years. It's similar to that situation we had in the original movie, but we've just moved it around a little bit, and it's a good chance for them to intervene with all the characters. Now we're all reunited. They rescue him, and R2-D2 reveals the third holocron inside of him, much like Leia's distress message years ago. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. They complete the map, and they finally know, okay, great, now we can finally find Luke. And Finn's like, hey, that's great, I'm staying here. I am out of this, I'm done, I helped, best of luck to you. And at this point, Han takes him aside and emphasizes with him. He says, like, he reasons with him.
Okay.
Empathizes, yes, thank you very much. And he says, like, kid, like, I get it. You know, I was once the same as you. I didn't want to get into any violent situations. I didn't want to get involved in any revolution or anyone's cause. But you know what? Right now, despite that, I'm still going to go with Rey and Leia to find Luke. Because being around that crazy kid taught me anything. It's about seeing the value in fighting for others. You know, I was there when the original Death Star blew up. Yeah, I didn't go, and I had already left. I was gone. I wasn't going to come back. I was going to let them all die. But I came back. Not because I believed in the rebellion, but because I believed in Luke. Like, if you want to live life for yourself, that's great. But you know what? I did that for years, and it brought me nothing but loneliness and misery. And now, I've got a family and a life, and I'm better for it. And it's a good bonding moment. And Finn is like waving his decision, like, should I stay, should I go? But before he, should I stay or should I go? But before he can actually make a decision, boom! The Imperial Order attacks! Stormtroopers everywhere, smugglers everywhere, fighting the stormtroopers, the gang all caught in the middle. We get to see Leia use some force powers. She actually gets to smack some stormtroopers around. Fuck yeah! Chewbacca gets out his bowcaster, starts blowing shit up. Fuck yeah! Han is also shooting people. Fuck yeah! Rey is shooting people. Fuck yeah! And then Phasma comes out. Not that traitor guy, but Phasma. She confronts Finn and kicks his ass, basically, because she's Captain Phasma, and in this version, she's awesome, but he's rescued by Han. And with do the fighting, they all get separated for a little bit, and Rey is suddenly captured by Shadow Knights. Bum bum bum.
This all sounds good, but I have a question. Wasn't the whole point of Rey and Finn going out to get Han so that Leia could stay with the school and teach the Jedi there?
Oh yeah, I forgot to write that in. Okay, so you know what? Scrap that. Leia's going with them. See, this is why I have you here, to point out the inconsistencies.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, inconsistency, man.
Yeah, oh, okay, so there we go. One inconsistency so far, that we're still in the developmental stage, so I can rewrite that, as opposed to the many, many inconsistencies in the original movie. Scoreboard, I think I'm doing okay.
Plus, I mean, it's not like anything really happened with Leia, so I think you're good. You just, like, you know, she was never there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could go either way. You could either have her stay at the Jedi Temple, or come back there and beat up some stormtroopers. I would go for the latter, but that's just me. Better than her doing a Mary Poppins in space. Yeah. Because, like, Leia in the original trilogy...
It would be interesting if she had left the Academy exposed.
That's a good point.
So, like, the Academy could be attacked.
I didn't write that in, though.
just saying.
Like I said, you could go either way. And both offer up unique opportunities for conflict. So, meanwhile, Rey is then taken to Korriban and is interrogated by Elisari about the map. However, unlike Ben, she's actually tortured. She tries to resist the torturing and she manages to succeed. And Elisari is like, oh shit, you've got the Force in you. Okay, good news. I'm not going to torture you anymore. She leans in close. I'm going to turn you to the dark side. Bum bum bum. Meanwhile, at a nearby Republic base, Finn is like, holy shit, we need to rescue Rey. Like, Han, you were right, fighting for people. We got to rescue her. And I was like, that's okay. I planted a tracker on Rey just before she was captured, and that means we can lead her, we can follow her straight to Korriban. Bit convenient, yeah, but we got to get this shit sorted. So, yeah, little bit of contrivance just to get us going, okay? And so now it's like Korriban. Well, you know what? They're taking her. They could have taken her anyway. They took her there. I bet you that's also where Ben Solo is. So now it's a full-blown rescue mission for Rey and Ben. Han is going, Finn is going, and Chewbacca is going. And Leia is just like, Han, bring our son back. Finn, bring Rey back. Just be safe, okay? And here's Ben's lightsaber. And back on Coruscant, Ben and Elisari are still talking things over. She's left Rey and she's gone back to talk with Ben. And at this point, Elisari is basically trying to convince Ben that the Imperial Order isn't any different from the Republic. Maybe in the old days they were evil, sure, but they're different now. And the dark side, like, I don't know what you've heard about the dark side, Ben, but I know all about that. It's like, yeah, right, the dark side is evil. She's like, no, it's not evil. Evil doesn't exist. Evil is what you simply call the enemy. Do you know what the Sith code is? It's like, I know what the Jedi code is. I don't know anything about any Sith code. She's like, I'll tell you. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. Which, BT dubs, is the actual code of the Sith. Like, that's taken directly from the expanded universe. And she basically says, this dark side is about being evil. It's about freeing yourself from rules and restrictions and being your own person. It's not about being bad, it's about being free. And Ben kind of likes that idea. He likes the idea of being free. Meanwhile, Finn and the others manage to infiltrate the planet and find the Imperial base. Don't know how they do that. That gets typed out in the actual script. This is just an overview. Rey manages to escape her cell like in the original, but she doesn't do it with a mind trick. She tries to use the Force, but she's untrained. She knows nothing about the Force, so it fails. So instead, she used a small like tech gadget that she managed to smuggle in and use that to free her. Because for years before she used the Force, she was like a junk salvager. She understands technology. So she escapes, she runs into the rescue party, and they're like, okay, we can't leave just yet, we've got to find Ben. At this point, you may notice that there is no cocking Death Star in the movie.
Yes, thank God.
Because the Death Star, but bigger, is a different movie. Like, look, our Death Star is different because it's called Starkiller Base, and it's a planet, and it can destroy 5 planets at once. It's like, that doesn't make it different. It makes it bigger. It's like, oh, I'm tired of writing Superman movies. I'm going to write a movie about Super Duper Ultraman. It's like, same fucking thing, but bigger. Isn't different. That's 3 Death Stars we've had, and we really only needed 1, if I've been fair. I get that it's a step up. Fine, fair enough. And if this was a second Death Star, that'd be kind of cool. But it's not. It's the 3rd, and we're over it. And bear in mind, it took them 2 decades to build the original Death Star, 6 further years to build the second Death Star, and that was incomplete. Are you really telling me that they were able to convert a planet into a planet killer in just 3 decades? No. That's... no. And how did no one find out about that? No. So there's no Death Star, it's just Korriban, it's a rescue mission. That's all we need. We don't need a repeat of the original trench run. So the rescue party tries to find Ben, but they are discovered by Elisari and Phasma. And Elisari says that she's not going to kill them. It's okay. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to stop you. And at that point, she turns around to reveal Ben, free of restraints. He's just standing by her side, looking confused and conflicted. He's been tempted, but not turned to the dark side. Right. Elisari has played on Ben's fears of not living up to his parents and his uncle's legend, the legacy of the Skywalker, like the title of the movie. She's twisted his feelings into hatred of them. They're the reason why he feels so bad. They're the reason why he feels like he can never really live up to them, no matter how hard he tries, why he feels that it'll never be good enough. And Han, he says, like, Ben, no, that's not what's happening. And Ben's like, you don't know how hard it was to be your son. Where were you when I was growing up? You were running all around the place, trying to be the hero of the rebellion, hero of the Republic, and you basically left me alone with Luke and Mum, and now you're telling me like there was no pressure? Now? No, there was. And Elisari tells him the only way to be free of them to have his own life and forge his own path and own destiny and have any sort of agency is to cut off all contact with his family. She doesn't say kill them or hurt them. She just says take a little alone time, take a little space. But Han's like, no, he should be with his family. And Elisari manipulates the situation to make Han try and attack her. And she succeeds, and Han draws his pistol and fires off a bolt at her. And Ben, in a moment of reflex, desperation, deflects the blaster bolt away from Elisari and accidentally rebounds it and hits Han square in the chest, killing him instantly. Now, I debated whether or not to leave Han Solo alive at the end of this, but it was clear that Harrison Ford did not want to do more than one movie. Doesn't really like Han Solo that much, so I couldn't get away with that. I could not get away with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say he needs to die because we definitely know Harrison Ford. We know for a fact that Harrison Ford only wanted to be involved if he was killed off, like he wanted in the original trilogy.
Yeah, I think they could have done a story with Han maybe getting killed off in the second one or expanding on the character, but no, this is all we're going to get. And he's got a bit less screen time in this, but I'm trying to make the screen time he does have count for more. This death, I think, is more impactful because there's way more conversation between him and Ben. And Ben, in this version, doesn't want to kill him. It's an accident. Whereas in the original,
yeah,
we know he's going to kill him. It's clear and obvious that he's going to kill him. But this time, it could have gone any other way. But he's been manipulated by Elisari. She's the puppet master, and it's an accidental death. And Ben, upon seeing his father die in his arms, he breaks down in grief and anger. Rey and all the others advance on him like, holy shit, you killed Han. But Elisari and Phasma force them back. Elisari duels Rey with a lightsaber, and Phasma fights with Finn again. And Phasma this time, she's not letting him get away. She wounds Finn, distracting Rey. Elisari uses the distraction to try and kill Rey, but then Chewie activates explosive planted all over the base of Korriban, giving them all a chance to escape. They drag a wounded Finn away and leave Ben behind. They escape, and Phasma's about to go after them, but Elisari's like, no, let them go. I got what I wanted. And Elisari turns to Ben, crumpled over Han's dead body. She tells Ben she's sorry. She didn't want this to happen. Again, we don't know whether she genuinely means it or she's just trying to get Ben on her side. Ben stands up and wipes away his tears, and he says, looking down upon his dead father's body, that it was his own fault. Rather than face up to his own guilt and his own responsibility, Ben chooses to place all the blame for the situation on Han. It was Han's fault. If he just let it go, if he just left him alone, if he just listened to him for once, it would have been fine. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't Elisari's fault. It was Han's. And he gets closer and closer to the dark side. So here we have a corrupted individual, much like his grandfather, with a few details slightly changed, that's more effective, more impactful, and he's not whining. Back on Coruscant, the New Republic Senate deliberates on whether or not they should proceed with an actual war on the Imperial Order, now that they know that the Jedi are being deliberately attacked. Meanwhile, Leia, Chewbacca, and Rey, and a comatose Finn are back in Coruscant. They're safe, and they're mourning the loss of Ben, presumably to the dark side. And Rey says, okay, there's one person who could solve all this. Luke Skywalker. I'm going to find him, I'm going to use this map, I'm going to find him, I'm going to bring him back, I'm going to make him fix this mess that he left. She leaves in the Millennium Falcon with R2-D2, BB-8, and Chewbacca, just as Finn wakes up from recovering from his injuries and he sees the Millennium Falcon with Rey inside take off. She follows the map to a distant planet and finds Luke on an island. She holds out his lightsaber that she's managed to get that I forgot to write in. Whoopsies. Leia gave it to him. Leia gave it to her.
Well, Leia said that it was Ben's lightsaber, so
we'll change that to Luke's.
Okay.
We'll change that to Luke's, because he left it behind. And this will be his green lightsaber, not his blue one that somehow ended up in the hands of Maz Kanata. We don't know. How did she get that? I don't know. She's about to hand it to Luke, but then off to the side, a voice calls out, "Dad, who's this?" And they turn to see Luke Skywalker's teenage daughter. That's the movie.
Okay.
Right, so
I have some thoughts.
Yes, before we have you go into thoughts, just some clarification. So, in The Last Jedi, we find out why Luke left. Because the Knights of Ren were destroyed by Kylo Ren, it was a whole thing. That's not happening anymore. So I needed to change the ending. We needed a reveal. And just having Luke there, even in the original, wasn't much of a reveal. He was just there, and she held out the lightsaber at an awkward angle, and he didn't say anything, and it was really weird. We needed a last-minute dramatic stinger. Why did Luke actually leave? We don't know the full answers yet, but we know it's got something to do with his daughter. And also that dispels any rumours that Rey might be Luke's daughter, because that was stupid.
Yeah.
And that's, as I said, that's the movie. So, your thoughts, Jillian? Be gentle.
I think it's good. I just had some questions.
Okay.
With Rey's parents, are they, in your version, still nobodies? And is it explicitly clear that they are nobodies in this film?
In this film, no. But I had an idea. Now, if I get around to doing an episode like this on The Last Jedi, that will get incorporated into this, but I'll spoil it a bit for you now, just to have an idea. In The Last Jedi, Rey reveals, yes, my parents were nobodies, and she just says it to Snoke, like it's meant to have some sort of impactful emotional weight. And it doesn't, because the very first thing we learned in film school was...
Setup and payoff?
That... And also, show, don't tell.
Yeah,
just having
that
her
too.
talking about the fact that her parents were nobodies isn't as impactful as, say, showing it. In the sequel to this brand new movie that I've written, I would have Rey go on a journey to find her parents, find them, expecting them to have a good reason why they've abandoned her for so long, only to find that they are in fact nobodies. They're maybe even drug addicts who sold her for alcohol or money or something like that. And they're like, "Oh, Rey, we're so glad to see you, kid. Haha, what are you doing here?" We can clearly see that they abandoned her. You know that scene? Do you ever see Shazam?
No, I have not seen Shazam yet.
I won't spoil it then. Sorry if I may have accidentally spoiled it, so I won't say it. But we're going to have a scene in the sequel to this where Rey finds a parent, they're revealed to be nobodies. Now, the idea of them being nobodies is a good one, because everyone was talking about, who's Rey's parents? Who's Rey's parents? Is she Luke's daughter?
See, because here's my thing. When I first saw The Force Awakens, I was very confused when people started, saying that Rey's parents had to be somebody and, putting this big mystery about whose Rey's parents were. Because my interpretation when I first watched the movie was that it was clear that they were nobodies and they were just assholes that just left her on a planet and she was wasting her life away hoping that they would come back for her when she had all this potential. And then I rewatched the movie yesterday and I was like, yeah, I don't know where this whole Rey's parents or somebody came from, because it seems obvious in The Force Awakens that they were never supposed to be anybody. They were just supposed to be people who dropped her off, probably to make some money, and they were never coming back.
Yeah, not only is it the most obvious thing, and not only is it it's the only direction they could have gone, but it's also the most impactful. If they'd done oh my god, she's actually the daughter of Jabba the Hutt, I don't know, then, and cool, I guess, but would we really care that much? It'd just be another twist in a movie full of a lot of twists, actually. I mean, I think I've added a few more, even. So, it just wouldn't be as impactful. But nobody's? Like, okay, here's a better example. Do you ever watch the Avatar The Last Airbender series?
Oh, yeah, I love that show.
Remember when Katara tried to track down the murderer of her mother, only to find that he wasn't some evil despot, but just a pathetic, broken old man?
Yes.
It's that sort of impact. Like, and it gives her a bit of a bitter taste in her mouth. It's like, okay, I got some closure, but I'm not going to forgive him. He's pathetic. He's not even worth me killing him. And that was a fucking kid's show. And it fully understood those complex emotions that something like that may have had.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that sort of thing would have been the best way to go, as well as the only way to go in terms of that. Any other quibbles or questions or concerns?
Let me look through my notes. Oh, the one thing that I feel like is a missed opportunity in this script, and that like was a missed opportunity in The Force Awakens, is that I really wanted Finn and Rey to both be Force sensitive. Like, it bothers me. Maybe it's because of Finn being so likable in The Force Awakens. Like, I just feel like we should, and it also would be different if we had two people that we discover are Force sensitive, and not just the switch bait with Rey.
That is a good point. Honestly, I could go either way. I think Finn's character works fine without it being Force sensitive. Would it be cool if he was? Maybe. And maybe in a sequel to this movie discovers that he is. But bear in mind, he grew up in this version, he grew up in the Imperial Order, where if you displayed even a slight hint of being Force sensitive, boom, you're a Shadow Knight. And you don't have a choice, and you're even more indoctrinated and brainwashed than Stormtroopers are, so that wouldn't really work in this version.
Right, unless if he doesn't discover it until after, because I mean, Rey takes a while to discover it as well.
Yes,
so
but she showed signs of it anyway. And bear in
that
mind,
is true.
Force users can sense other Force users, don't forget. And presumably everyone's scanned and screened and tested to make sure. And of course there is, I don't want to acknowledge it, but I guess I can in regards to this concern, the presence of midichlorians. Oh, I feel dirty. I feel dirty and unclean. So there's physical ways you can test to make sure that someone has Force powers. And it's different for different people, but there is that. So it's not a bad idea, it just doesn't work in this instance.
Right. But otherwise it seemed pretty interesting in terms of getting rid of all the New Hope bullshit that was in Force Awakens.
There's no Death Star, there's no Darth Vader analog, and any narrative parallels we can find are tweaked just enough, at least I tried to tweak them just enough, in order to make them distinct, interesting in their own right. And when you can draw parallels, you can say, oh, it's kind of cool, because then, like, characters that have gone through similar things can empathize with these new characters and be mentors.
Yes.
So that's basically it. This is my take on Star Wars Episode 7, Force Awakens, aka The Skywalker Legacy. I mean, like I said, there was a few inconsistencies, but as any writer will tell you, that's gonna happen. I mean, this wasn't my first draft on this. I've been retooling this for a while now, but I try to make it as airtight as I can. But this is why I don't like auteurs, because then you get other people involved and they can point out the flaws. That's what I do on a regular basis as a critic. I look at other people's work and I point out the flaws. And it's hard to do that on your own work to a sufficient enough degree. That's why I got you in.
Yeah, no, it's definitely difficult to notice the flaws of your own work, especially if you it's easier in the beginning, but then like once when you start doing the deep dive, it becomes harder because things just become more set in stone as you progress your own story.
And you're never going to get rid of every single plot hole. No plot is going to be perfect, but that's why film is a collaborative process, because then you've got people around you to help you through that. And I think if Disney, let's be honest, it wasn't Lucas film that was doing this, it was Disney, had focused on having one person or maybe two people with a clear vision and just giving them notes occasionally, yeah, but just letting them fulfill their vision in a collaborative way, then we would have gotten a much better movie. And that's the sad thing about this. I like doing this, but we're not going to get this movie. I know the people out there is just like, oh, sign my petition to remake Star Wars, but it's not going to fucking happen. The best we can hope for is better movies. I haven't seen the trailer for Star Wars Episode 9 because at this point I cannot be asked. I'm going to see it, obviously, but at this point my heart's been broken too many times. So all we can hope for is that movie is going to be better, and let's be honest, it's not a low hurdle for them to jump over.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue too with the way that this trilogy was handled, and I've heard different stories, but the story that I have heard is that they didn't really have a set plan of where the story was going to go. And I feel like that's also a reason why The Force Awakens just feels like a rehash. It's like they needed to just prove to the audience that they can make a Star Wars movie. And then, but then they had no idea afterwards.
J.J. Abrams said that. He said the reason why it was so similar to a previous movie was because they needed to earn back the trust of Star Wars fans after the prequels. It's just like, no, J.J.
Yeah.
You didn't need to earn our trust. George Lucas did. The guy you cut out of the creative process after you heard him, like, for 5 minutes. Like, he needed to earn our trust back. You didn't, and if anything, you lost the trust we already had in you by making this movie. And it's like,
yeah.
I swear to God, they made every single mistake they possibly could have in the making of these movies. And they didn't realise, oh shit, there's a legion of fans out there. They're going to have their own opinions, much like us. And they're going to try and put their own spin on it. But I think, you know, that's a great thing about a fan. I mean, you can say how you thought things could have gone. And maybe it's an exercise in futility. But at least it's trying to demonstrate some degree of creativity. And it's easy. It is easy. This is the easiest thing in the world to, in hindsight, go back and say, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, this wrong. But that's partly why I wanted to do this, is to not just do that as well, but also try and create something out of this. Be a bit creative and try and show people that there was a possibility for something good in this. And maybe, Capers, you agree with my decisions. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have your own opinions. And either way, I'd like to hear them. But I think that's the great thing about fans is we can create our own stories. And due to the expanded universe, we can maybe contribute someday to it in a meaningful way. And whether you like these movies or hate them, the saga will continue. And on that note, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you very much, Jillian, for joining us today.
Yeah, no worries.
And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops! And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes. I think we discussed Star Wars on this show before, check that out. You can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, or at podcapers.com. We have a Patreon, check out the rewards, patreon.com/AP2HYC. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC, or email us at podcapers@ap2hyc.com. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone, the red and blue 3D glasses, those are mine, and thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!